Lloyd is the weakest loser in his village, but after saving the princess from a curse and defeating huge monsters, he becomes the hero without ever realizing it. In a lush jungle where a horned rabbit is peacefully grazing on some grass, Lloyd creeps up behind it and then jumps to catch it, thinking he's done it, but finds his hands empty. Suddenly, the rabbit comes out of nowhere and kicks him in the face and scratches him all over before running away with a smug grin. Lloyd gets up and dusts his clothes off before crying over his failure. Then, his brother Shoma calls out to him with the rabbit now hanging from his hands. Lloyd jumps into his arms, "Enjoy," and he begins walking him home. On their way there, Shoma tells him he'll do his best to help him explore the outside world before giving him a book as a present. He happily takes the book and runs off. A few years later, we see an older Lloyd entering the house of a witch called Marie. Lloyd begins speaking, but Marie interrupts him, saying that she'll only grant his wishes for a great price. She asks what he wants and learns that he wants to stay in her house so he can take a military exam at a nearby academy. She gets angry and tells him to get a hotel room instead of bothering her for such a petty request. Marie goes back to her seat, asking which countryside village he's from, and he tells her it's a place called Klan, which shocks her. Then, after telling her that his village chief Alka sent him here, Lloyd places a crystal ball on her desk. Marie jumps in shock as it glows and reveals the witch Alka, who greets her as her student. She immediately submits to her master, who orders her to take care of Lloyd and leaves without further explanation. Marie gets up and calmly dusts off her clothes before throwing the ball into a wall, calling Alka a lowly grandma for bothering her so much. Then she tells Lloyd to use one of her rooms, and he thanks her before going inside. Marie thinks that Lloyd is actually a pretty nice guy, despite being close to Alka the lowly. Just then, Alka materializes out of thin air just to tell her to keep her dirty hands off him. Then, she punishes Marie with a curse of infinite minor inconveniences because she heard Marie call her names. After Alka leaves, Marie bangs her desk in frustration, screaming at her unfortunate fate before giving up and going to sleep. In the morning, she wakes up with a blanket over her, and Lloyd brings over some breakfast for her. She feels surprised that he can make delicious pancakes and accepts his treat. As Lloyd sits down to eat with her, Marie asks if he's really studying to become a soldier, and Lloyd tells her that he wants to become a soldier just like the powerful heroes from stories because he has always been the weakest in his village. Marie asks him if he's prepared for the written and combat tests, and Lloyd feels embarrassed because he thinks he's too weak for combat. He tells her that it took him 6 days to reach her city, Aami, and she thinks it's a normal time for trains. However, Marie gets mind blown after she learns that Lloyd actually ran on foot all the way. She tells him that he's a monster, but Lloyd reveals that his grandpa could do it in 2 days. Then, as he tells her that he only faced a few giant locusts and fire-breathing lizards, Marie realizes that he's stronger than a monster. She wonders why he's so insecure, and then Lloyd tells her that he's also weak at magic, only being able to summon rain with his powers. Marie tells him that it's not normal for anyone to know even some magic, and she bangs her head into a wall from frustration. Sometime later, Lloyd makes his way to the kingdom capital for the soldier's exam. He hears rumors that some spies are trying to invade the cities with monsters, but ignores them to focus on attending his exam. Nearby, a man bumps into a hooded girl called the Belt Princess. He yells at her for damaging the reputation of nobles with her shady actions. She runs away into an alley, where suddenly, a giant locust appears. The girl tries slashing at it with her sword, but it shrugs off her attack and slams her into the wall. When it opens its mouth to eat her, Lloyd jumps over from a roof like some Hollywood actor and lands a kick straight to its bug brain. After that, he tosses the entire bug into space like it's a piece of paper and begins cleaning up the shocked Belt Princess. She feels shy and turns away, but gets the courage to turn around and tell him that her name is Selin. Later in her room, Selin feels attracted to Lloyd, but thinks he won't like her because of all the weird belts on her face that have cursed her since childhood. She remembers a priest's words that the mask would come off once she saw true power, but it never worked. In her frustration, she decides to end her suffering and just rip the mask off, no matter the consequences. To her surprise, the mask comes off cleanly, revealing her beautiful face. Selin then realizes that Lloyd is the man of her dreams who has shown her the power to end her curse. On exam day, Officer Meltfin looks out of a window, scanning for some strong candidates for their academy. He tells his partner Colin that their nation needs strong soldiers from any background because neighboring nations are becoming aggressive. He looks at the ruthless mercenary Riho Flavin and the noble knight Alan, who are both excellent recruits. However, Riho herself feels terrified of Lloyd standing next to her since she can sense his ungodly power. Lloyd tells her that her metal arm looks cool, but she thinks she is going to expire her for looking at him the wrong way. However, after seeing him politely introduce himself, she calmly tells him her name before getting shoved aside by Selin. Selin tells Lloyd that he owns her body and soul, then grabs Riho to make sure she isn't stealing her man. Riho notices her melting over Lloyd and thinks that the dumb boy and idiot noble can make her some good money. Later, Riho asks Meltfin if he knows who Lloyd is, but he is also terrified of him because he doesn't know how he's such a monster. As Lloyd begins his test, Meltfin leaves to check on the other applicants. On the day the exam results are announced, Alka appears at Marie's house, worried for Lloyd. Marie thinks that someone as powerful as Lloyd, who came from the legendary Kunlun village outside the world's last dungeon, would be fine, but in reality, he actually fails the exam. A few days later, the first class begins. Both Riho and Selin get confused when they find Lloyd missing, but they realize that Instructor Meltfin is even more clueless than they are. During the entire period, none of them can take their mind off of where Lloyd is. When Colin tells them that they'll get anything they want for finding the kingdom's missing princess, Maria, all of them get excited as they get an idea. Meanwhile, Lloyd is walking through a street. He enters a restaurant to get a part-time job. The owner feels threatened by him and launches an attack, but gets shocked as Lloyd effortlessly dodges it. When Lloyd explains that he's just looking for work, Chrome thinks that he's just joking. However, after he actually starts preparing a meal in the kitchen, he feels astonished that someone as strong as him failed the military exam. Back in the classroom, the three idiots read Lloyd's test papers and think he failed because his weird handwriting is just a bunch of squiggles. Colin takes the papers from them and realizes that he actually drew ancient magic runes as his answers. She gets angry at Meltfin's incompetence since he didn't recognize the runes despite telling her to study them. Then she asks where Lloyd's is and finds out that Selin and Riho have no idea. A short while later, Lloyd himself presents Chrome with a nice risotto dish, but Chrome thinks that Lloyd's trying to distract him with food to attack him. Chrome accepts the challenge and takes a bite. Back at the academy, everyone learned that magic runes can create incredible spells. They learn that Lloyd can even summon rain with his magic and realize just how much potential he has. Colin wonders how she'll ever find a talented student like Lloyd again, but Selin tells her that she'll just find the princess and use her wish to invite Lloyd to the academy. Back at the restaurant, Chrome gets defeated by Lloyd's incredible cooking and finally accepts him as a worker. Meanwhile, back at home, Alka and Marie almost have a heart attack because he failed his exam. Alka decides to burn the useless kingdom to the ground, and Marie barely stops her. Then, Lloyd calmly tells Marie that he wants to stay with her until the next exams, paying rent with his new job, and Alka allows it. After he goes back to his room, Marie asks Alka to help her kingdom with her great powers. She reveals that the king of the Aami kingdom suddenly became a warmonger one day. She thinks someone else is controlling him and will announce war against the Jew Empire at the national festival. Alka reminds her that her Kunlun people will not help them unless they face a demon lord or world-threatening calamity. Marie tells Alka that she is trying to learn magic so she can deal with the war herself, but Alka warns her to keep Lloyd out of any such matters before returning to her village. Later at night, Marie throws a mysterious crystal ball into a well. The next day, Riho and Meltfin are eating at Chrome's restaurant when they realize that it's way cleaner than before. They wonder how it changed because it was just a crappy budget shop for poor students. Meltfin tells Riho that Chrome was actually a royal guard for for the princess, but he quit his job after she went missing. Just then, Chrome comes up to serve them their food, and they almost get offended that it's delicious. He explains that it's because he hired a new chef, but when they see Lloyd pop out, both of them lose their minds. Chrome tells Lloyd to take out the trash. Meltfin grills Chrome for getting their champion student. Chrome asks them why they failed such a talented boy. While outside the restaurant, Lloyd sees Marie, who runs into a shady alley. Meanwhile, at the academy, Alan gets angry at Selin because she beat up a guy who tried hitting on her. He claims that she's hurting his reputation by causing trouble, but she just ignores him. Alan's ego gets hurt, so he challenges her to a battle, which she accepts. He rushes at her with his axe and jumps up to a great height, then comes launching down at her. Selin is unable to react to Alan's incredible speed, but suddenly, her belt lashes out and knocks his axe away from his hands. She starts thinking that the belt became magical after Lloyd blessed her. Just then, Lloyd comes to watch the commotion, and Selin starts thinking that fate is bringing her one-sided lover to protect her. Colin then comes over to break up the fight. Selin tells them that Lloyd will fight Alan to protect her honor, but he refuses, saying that he can't hurt an innocent civilian. Meltfin grills him for being too weak to beat up an innocent man before secretly telling Colin that Lloyd is the magical student they're looking for. She agrees to let him fight Alan, who thinks he's getting set up. However, he starts thinking that they're trying to make him prove his abilities, so he agrees to the fight. Alan believes that the polite Lloyd is too weak to hurt him, so he lets him punch his face as a head start, thinking he can withstand it. Everyone watching the scene starts sweating buckets as they realize he's dead. Lloyd agrees to punch Alan, but just as he's about to make his first kill, a tornado surrounds Lloyd and carries him away. To his surprise, he finds himself in the arms of his teacher, Marie. She takes him to safety and scolds him for not being careful with his powers. Lloyd thinks that he was the one in danger against Alan, so he thanks her for saving her life. He tells her he'll do anything to repay her, and Marie gets a nosebleed from dirty thoughts. She warns him not to give favors to bad people like her, but Lloyd thinks she's a very kind girl. Before she can blush even more, Chrome interrupts them and sends Lloyd back to the restaurant. He greets Marie as his senior and tells her that he's been trying to find out why their king changed suddenly. Marie tells him that they need to stop the warmonger on the day of the international summit, and she needs his help for it. Later, in a school library, Colin sees Meltfin studying all the records of their students, and he tells her he's doing it for the peace of their kingdom. Colin wonders why he's so serious about training them and learns that there was a famine in his village, and the Jew Empire's soldiers raided them and took all their food. Meltfin feels determined to never let that happen again. Meanwhile, Riho is walking around the town with Selin, who is crying that she'll never be able to find her husband again. Riho reminds her that she needs to focus on finding the princess if she wants to get Lloyd into the academy anyway, so Selin takes her to Marie's house to get information from her. When they knock on the door, to their shock, Lloyd opens the door, leaving Selin in an existential crisis and making Riho realize her love is completely one-sided. Soon, a drunk Marie comes home but sobers up after seeing Selin's Yandir face. Riho shows Marie a picture and asks her if she has seen the princess somewhere, but Marie starts acting all suspicious, saying she has no idea. Riho starts thinking that Marie looks like the missing princess, but then Selin asks her in a disappointed voice if Marie is who she really thinks she is. The witch princess starts feeling guilty about hiding her identity from her citizens to selfishly live a peaceful life. So just when Selin asks her if she's Lloyd's wife, Marie admits that she is the missing princess. Marie manages to hide her identity in the confusion, then tells the girls that she'll give them her information if they can tell her about any suspicious activities in their academy. As she tells them that their kingdom is in great danger, Lloyd comes saying that he knows that she is the kingdom's hero. Marie feels completely stunned by his goofy suggestion, but when Lloyd asks her to let him help with the war, she completely denies it, saying he's too weak. She sees how heartbroken Lloyd is, but refuses to let him join to protect him from the war. Then, Marie tells the girls that she needs their help to stop the war. Riho asks her why she kicked Lloyd away even though he's so strong strong, and she tells them about the rules of the strange Klan village. Once the girls learn that Lloyd would be sent home if he got involved without reason, they focus on the mysterious person trying to find Marie, whether dead or alive. Riho finally agrees to help her so she can keep her identity hidden. Later, while sitting on a roof, Marie is thinking about using a disenchant spell to heal her father. Suddenly, Alka appears and curses her for making her teleport into a well. Afterward, Riho finds a guy during her search who tells her that the person looking for the princess keeps saying that he's doing it for the peace of the kingdom. On the day of the festival, Alka tries to cheer Lloyd up, but some giant locusts interrupt their date. Inside the palace, the king is standing on the balcony with Chrome and Meltfin behind him. Chrome asks Meltfin if he's the one trying to control the king to start a war. He calmly confesses to being the culprit. After he confesses, Riho and Selin come out to confront him with Maria. Suddenly, the silent king starts laughing and turns around with strange glowing marks on his face. Meltfin says that he's just his puppet, but the king blows him away and reveals that he was just pretending to be under his control. As King walks up to him, he tells Meltfin that he was behind all the attacks on innocent villages, so people like Meltfin would get angry and push for war against their neighbors. Then, he turns Meltfin into a monster under his control and leaves the room. Riho blocks his attacks and tells Marie to go after her father. She finds the king in the throne room and begins a battle of magic against him. Using a light to distract him, Marie gets in front of the king to use a spell and release the curse controlling him, but suddenly, he smiles at her like a kind father, which disturbs her attack. King takes this chance to knock Maria down, saying that he'll end her. She feels scared to lose her life, but then remembers all of her dreams and missions, and gets the courage to continue fighting. The king mocks her confidence by announcing that he'll crush her completely and rule over the world as the demon Lord Abaddon. Back in the festival plaza, Lloyd senses something and tells Alka that he'll help Marie even if he has to go against her orders. Meanwhile, Marie looks unimpressed as Abaddon laughs evilly, thinking he has won. She remembers Alka saying that she'll only help if the threat is something big, like a demon lord, and gets mad at Abaddon for not telling her earlier. The demon lord gets flabbergasted that she isn't shaking in her boots, but Marie shakes with anger while screaming that she wouldn't have gone through so much trouble if Lloyd had been helping her from the start. She starts running away from the king to find Lloyd, while he starts chasing her like it's a Looney Tunes episode. Lloyd himself finds Alan trembling in a corner, so he tells him that it's normal to feel scared when fighting monsters for the first time. He casually flicks away a giant locust in front of Alan's stunned eyes, thinking that it's just a little bug. Lloyd leaves after telling him that he's stronger than he thinks, which gives Alan the confidence to save a lady from a monster himself. Back in the castle, Meltfin absolutely destroys Riho and Chrome. Selin steps up to him, thinking that if she gets hurt, Lloyd will show up to protect her. However, her legendary belt just deflects all his attacks, distracting Meltfin so that Riho can run outside. Riho finds Lloyd and brings him inside, but he totally ignores Selin and goes to check on Chrome. Lloyd then notices Meltfin in his berserk state and asks him why he's doing this. Lloyd tells him in his eyes, a soldier's job is to protect his people. Meltfin gets affected by his words, much to everyone's shock. Then, Lloyd asks him the reason why he became a soldier, and his mask slowly starts coming off as he remembers that he just wanted to protect his people and bring peace to them, right before he gets completely free from the demon lord's mind control. Lloyd accuses him of drinking and putting on a funny costume to scare other people. The anger from his false accusation sends Meltfin into another rage, and he turns back into the monster and attacks him, only to get sent flying like a ping-pong ball. Then, Marie comes inside and hugs Lloyd in relief. The tired demon lord also comes in, but Lloyd tries to warn the old man that there are dangerous monsters nearby. Marie tells him that the old man is a drunk creep trying to harass her, so he should clean up all the weird makeup on his face. Lloyd agrees and uses a disenchant rune on his handkerchief to clean up the king. Abaddon recognizes the spell and tries to keep Lloyd away from him, but Lloyd easily flicks away his attack and wipes off the mind control spell from him. In the face of Marie's taunts, the confused demon lord gets wiped off like a bunch of dirt, and the king returns to normal. Marie hugs Lloyd for saving her life, while Selin gets mad that she's so close and asks why she let him help even though she refused earlier. Soon, the city goes back to normal, and Lloyd meets his brother Shoma on the street. Shoma tells him that he's just delivering some some goods to the city, but as Alka runs up to greet Lloyd, he vanishes without a trace, much to her annoyance. Back in the academy, Colin asks Chrome what happened to Meltfin, and he teases her for being worried about her crush. Colin pops his nuts open, and the humbled Chrome tells her that Alka took Meltfin to Kunlun village for a spiritual journey. There, she set him to work on some wheat fields. Meltfin learned that during the famine that plagued his village, Alka had distributed wheat to his hungry people and cried from her kindness. Later in Marie's house, she catches Alka trying to record private videos of Lloyd and learns that she just wants him to become a soldier so she can fulfill her fantasies with his muscular body. Then, Alka asks Marie if she'll go back to the castle, but Marie tells her that she's used to living in the city now. Soon, Lloyd comes out dressed in his soldier clothes and Alka starts drooling over him. Marie wonders why he got accepted into the academy, remembering that someone had suggested him to the teachers. Lloyd then goes outside to greet Selin and Riho, and Alka peeks at them out of curiosity. Once again, Selin gets upset that Lloyd is interacting with another girl and starts squabbling with Alka. Alka tries to prank her with a magic spell, but Selin's belt easily deflects it. She gets shocked, realizing that it's actually the skin of a legendary beast called Vitra. Before she can explain further, Alan also shows up, thanking Lloyd for all his help. He explains that his seniors offered him a reward for his good work during the festival, so he asked them to accept Lloyd into the academy. He starts talking about becoming Lloyd's student, and everyone starts bickering, and Marie screams at them for ruining her peace. Sometime later, Lloyd is riding a carriage with Chrome and Marie, feeling happy to clean up some trash for them. When they arrive, he starts picking it up, but accidentally pulls a sword from a rock. Marie explains that it's the holy sword, and whoever draws it gains the power to control the world. She's relieved Lloyd managed to do it, since someone had been using it as a tourist scam to trick people out of their money. Finally, she tells Chrome to take care of storing the sword. Some weeks later, Colin announces to her tired students that she'll begin tryouts for an upcoming inter-school match against Rokuju Magic Academy. She gets a magic dummy for the students to prove their strength, and Riho proudly outperforms Selin. However, after Lloyd completely disintegrates the tough stone statue, she decides that he won't be allowed to compete for the sake of safety. Afterward, they take a break from training, and Selin asks Colin to teach her some healing magic. Riho reminds her that healing magic is actually the hardest magic to learn, so she needs to be careful. Then, Alan comes up, saying that learning harder magic will help them improve their basics. Lloyd also chimes in, and Colin agrees to teach them all, but they wonder who to practice it on. Just then, Selin gets the idea to use Alan's strong body as a crash test dummy, and the entire school destroys him just to use Alan as a guinea pig for their healing experiments. Meanwhile, Marie is enjoying some coffee when she gets startled by two weird intruders. The smaller girl introduces herself as Mina, and her sister as Philo. Marie recognizes them as some mercenary students of Rokuju Academy, and Mina gives her a photo of Riho, asking where she is. Marie gets surprised that they're looking for her, but suddenly, Philo feels a disturbing aura and attacks as soon as Lloyd enters through the door. He takes two full-force kicks from her without a scratch. Lloyd feels confused, but notices a fly buzzing around and thinks that she was trying to swat it. Marie tells the sisters that they're lucky Lloyd doesn't have a temper. Just then, Lloyd notices the photo in Mina's hands. Before Marie can stop him, he tells them where Riho is, but Philo interrupts and requests to become his student, even if it means he'll take her as a maid. Then, she suddenly takes off Lloyd's shirt to give him a bath, but Marie kicks both sisters out of the house before things get too crazy. She notices that Lloyd's rib was broken by Philo's kick, but he tells her that it'll just heal in a few hours. After he goes to the kitchen to cook, Alka pops out of nowhere, jealous that Marie had fun with him in the Holy Sword Town. When Lloyd returns, he finds Alka there and Marie missing, as she comes flying out of her clothes as a butterfly. Later at night, Marie turns back to her human form without her clothes on, and poor Lloyd gets traumatized at the sight. He quietly turns around and leaves without a comment, leaving her to cry herself to sleep in her shame. Sometime later, Chrome decides to get a prize for the winner. Meanwhile, Colin feels motivated to win because the headmistress of Rokuju Academy is is someone she hates. Just then, the headmistress called Rawl shows up and starts taunting Riho, whom she knows from childhood. Colin tells Selin that Rawl was actually a ruthless student who stepped on all of her opponents to make it to the top. Meanwhile, Rawl threatens Riho that if she doesn't return to her academy, she'll destroy their old home. After her threat, Riho starts feeling sad all the time, and Lloyd feels bad for her. At home, he asks Marie how to cheer up someone if they're feeling sad, and she thinks that he wants to help her feel better after her naked accident. Marie confidently tells Lloyd that he should take Riho out on a date. Lloyd thinks he's too weak for a girl to like him, but with Marie's encouragement, he finally agrees to take out Riho, much to her utter heartbreak. So the next day in school, Lloyd takes Riho out and asks her why she's been depressed all the time. She tells him that it's because she grew up in an orphanage with Rawl. Because Riho couldn't use her left arm, she couldn't work to earn money for them. But one day, Rawl gave her a prosthetic metal arm. Riho felt happy with her gift, but ran away after learning that Rawl just wanted to enhance her power for pulling out the holy sword with her arm. She explains that the arm is stuck to her body and constantly sucks out her life like a curse. Riho reveals that Rawl is also the person behind all the fake crime warrants to get her arrested and trapped. Lloyd feels bad for her and promises to help Riho in any way he can. She feels happy about his support, but Selin suddenly pops up and ruins the moment. Still, she also feels bad for her friend and decides to put Rokuju Academy in their place at the competition. A few days later, the two schools hold a practice match. Colin decides to send Lloyd with someone else. But suddenly, a senior student called Makona comes crashing down and claims that she'll replace the weak newbie Lloyd. She prepares to fight Philo and launches a fireball at her, but the quiet girl just floods her away with a huge river of water. Lloyd tries to help Makona treat her injuries, but she angrily turns him away, making him think he's useless. Later, she visits Marie in her house to get treatment for her injuries. Makona feels flustered as she watches the cute witch, thinking that her dreams are going to come true. However, Lloyd interrupts her moment by walking in. He's surprised to see Makona there, and when Marie asks if they know each other, Lloyd confirms they met during a practice match. He then takes Marie to the kitchen, leaving Makona behind. Finally, it's time for the competition, and Riho promises Rawl that she'll make her pay for her crimes. Before things can get too heated between the girls, Chrome suddenly announces that the prize for winning the competition is actually the holy sword. Riho gets mad at Chrome for using her beloved holy sword like a cheap trophy, and Rawl gets so angry that she decides to become a student once again just to compete for the sword. Colin gets upset that the senior headmistress is cheating, so she includes Lloyd in their team as well. Riho then seriously asks her if she can teach her healing magic. Back at Marie's house, Alka gets jealous because she can't go watch Lloyd fight, so she curses Marie with a stomachache so she can't enjoy it either. In the stadium, the referee announces that the participants can only use magic, and they will get disqualified for physical attacks. First, Philo steps up to fight Selin, who confidently stands there, thinking her belt will defend her. However, as Philo launches lightning bolts, the belt does nothing, and Selin runs around like a chicken to dodge them. Then, Philo gets tired of her running and casts a big spell that creates a huge lightning bolt from the sky. Selin can only stare as the bolt approaches her, but finally, her belt wakes up and blocks the attack. Then, she wraps Philo in the belt and prepares to annihilate her, but the referee stops and disqualifies Selin for using a physical attack. For the next match, Lloyd goes up against Mina. She uses a water ball to suffocate him, but Lloyd just stands there breathing for the next 20 minutes. Realizing that he's too dumb to drown, she pops the ball and then summons a strong water wall that traps Lloyd. Lloyd notices Mina casting magic, so he decides to cast some wind magic of his own. Lloyd's wind spell completely destroys Mina's water wall and sends her crashing outside the stadium. After Lloyd's win, it's the tiebreaker match with Rawl against Riho. The two girls seem evenly matched, but eventually, Rawl gains the upper hand. Riho jumps back to safety, but Rawl speeds up and grabs her metal arm. She rips it off, letting her helplessly fall to the ground. Rawl gets in her face to boast about her victory, but Riho smirks and reveals that she was planning for this all along. She punches her hand towards her, and it sends her flying back with a spell. Rawl notices a big wound on Riho's arm, who explains that she trapped a magic stone inside it and healed it with a spell to hide it under her skin. Then, Riho heals her arm with another spell and heads towards Rawl, chanting a big water spell to finish finish her off, but Rawl passes out in fear, and Riho grins at her win, knowing that she was just acting to cast since she didn't have the energy to use another spell. Rawl falls into a dream where she remembers walking up the ranks to gain the power and fame she deserved. At the very top, a mysterious voice told her that she needed the holy sword to obtain the best power. Just as she walks up to the sword, Rawl wakes up in a room with Philo and Mina. She learns that Lloyd currently has the holy sword, and the person who pulled it out is actually Marie, the famous witch. Rawl sends Philo to get the sword from her, saying that the dumb sister needs to prove her worth after Mina lost her match. Later, Philo arrives at Marie's house, where she finds her kneeling and begging for Alka's forgiveness. Marie leaves to get some medicine for her stomachache, and Philo enters the house, noticing the crystal ball. Afterward, Lloyd returns to the house, but finds Marie missing. He picks up a note from Philo telling him to give her the sword if he wants Marie back. Just then, Alan comes to get some medicine from Marie, but Lloyd drags him away to help him save her. Back at Rawl's place, Philo learns that Lloyd is arriving, and she jumps down after leaving the magic ball in her hands. She charges at Lloyd, excited for another battle. Lloyd gets surprised by her passion, but she tells him that he's the perfect fighter to have the last battle of her life with. He gets serious and decides to fight properly, but tells her that she must return Marie if he wins. However, Lloyd thinks he might be too weak for Philo, so he challenges her to an arm wrestling fight. Their match releases a powerful wind that blows Alan away, and then Rawl's assistant starts harassing him to get the holy sword. Thankfully, Mina knocks him out and explains that she just wants to ruin Rawl's plans because she disrespected her sister. Back to Lloyd and Philo. She almost defeats him, but then Lloyd jumps up in the sky to avoid losing. They continue dueling it out mid-air, but Philo once again drives Lloyd down with her strength. He finally uses a strong wind spell that shoots them into a wall, and in the end, Lloyd barely wins the match. He feels happy that he defeated such a strong opponent for Marie's sake, but suddenly, Philo takes his hands and proposes marriage to him. He asks her where she took Marie, and she points out that she never even left her house. Rawl gets angry while watching this scene, but suddenly, the magic ball glows and summons Alka. She gets angry that she is trying to ruin her fun time with Lloyd and blows Rawl out into the water. Despite everyone wondering if they should help a villain like Rawl, Alan runs off to save her. The next day, Rawl is resting in her bed as she remembers her orphanage. She remembers telling Riho that the two of them would grow up and rebuild their shaggy home, which was her real goal at the start. Once she wakes up, she finds Riho peeling some apples for her, still caring for her older sister despite all she did. Sometime later at night, Mina and Philo find a hotel boy unconscious in a forest. Mina confirms that a treant was behind the attack on this man, and the girls prepare to take him to the infirmary. The next day in the academy, Riho tries asking Lloyd out for summer break, but Selin scares her with a gloomy face. She starts crying that her family won't let her spend time with her crush, but then Alan interrupts both girls, bragging that he has been invited by some noble family to marry their daughter. The girls feel unimpressed and drag Lloyd away. After class ends, Lloyd goes back home to see Marie and Alka fighting over who gets to spend the vacation with him. He tells both girls that he doesn't want them to come with him because he'll be working a job during the summer, leaving them both heartbroken. Once it's time for the vacation, we see the hotel owner waiting outside for Lloyd. He jumps in fear after feeling a terrifying aura, but finds Lloyd introducing himself as the new intern. Afterward, the owner introduces himself as Koba, a former royal guard. As he takes Lloyd to his working area, he tells him about the strange incident of unconscious people appearing around his hotel. They enter a bath, where he calls his lazy employee Kikayo to teach him. Kikayo hands Lloyd a mop and tells him to thoroughly clean the gigantic building, but he returns before she can even finish her sentence. She thinks he's just joking, but gets stunned by the shining room. Koba also comes in and appreciates Lloyd's work, and Kikayo asks him who the new intern really is. Koba tells her that it's a secret before taking him away for another task. Lloyd puts on the hotel uniform and learns from Koba that he'll be greeting a new guest called 309. He warns Lloyd that the nobleman is hard to deal with, so he should just do whatever he says. When 309 comes over, he gets annoyed by Koba and his own assistant. Then, he observes the trees outside the hotel and asks Lloyd what he thinks about them. Lloyd tells him that while the trees look pretty, they've been artificially planted and trimmed, which ruins their natural beauty. His answer pleasantly surprises the nobleman, and he starts telling Lloyd that his family used to be foresters before they became soldiers. He thinks that turning the forest into a tourist spot will ruin its appeal and also make it harder to investigate it. Then 309 starts telling Lloyd about his own son, who he thinks is an idiot, and Koba feels glad that the nobleman is happy to talk to Lloyd. Later at night, 309 is alone in his room when Kikayou secretly comes to talk. He tells her that Koba might be behind all the disappearances, since he's from a military background. He reminds her that if the forest becomes a tourist spot, the tree demons would turn it into a dungeon. Then, he also mentions that a noble lord who is selling the wood from tree demons has proposed marriage to his son. Kikayou realizes that 309 wants to use his son to get closer to this shady person, and he nods before telling her about some rumors about a demon lord sapling in the area. She feels surprised and wonders if the mysterious Lloyd could be behind the incident, so he gives her some drugs to expel the demon controlling his body. She later mixes the drugs into Lloyd's tea while he works in the kitchen. Kikayou curiously asks him about the disappearances, and he tells her that Koba mentioned it to him. She thinks that Lloyd got tricked into doing his shady stuff, but before he can drink it, Koba interrupts her and takes Lloyd away for a task. Koba drinks the tea himself and spits it out because of its weird taste. Kikayou jumps out, thinking that he figured out her strategy, while he suspects that she's behind all the incidents. The next day, Riho arrives at the hotel for her vacation and orders a nice massage from room service. She gets surprised when Lloyd enters to serve her and immediately stops him from touching her body. He feels disappointed that he's not competent enough to satisfy her, but before she can explain her shyness, they hear a scream from the nearby forest. Outside, Selin is in a carriage with her father, who tells her that he just wanted to spend some quality time with her at a vacation spot. They pull up at the hotel, where Selin gets dressed in some fancy clothes and is kicked out to attend her marriage proposal. Her father tells her that her potential husband is actually an elite soldier, and she feels shocked, thinking that it could be Alan. She tells her dad that she wants to marry Lloyd, but he just thinks that she should attend the proposal so she can get practice for proposing later. Soon, they sit down in a room with 309, while Selin considers bombing the place to save herself. With forks in her hand, ready to end her suitor's existence, Selin jumps as the door starts opening. After realizing it's Lloyd, she immediately melts into his arms and takes him away to do malicious things. The two confused men ignore her and get to their negotiations, while Selin finds out that Lloyd replaced Alan because he passed out in a hot bath. Lloyd tells her that he's trying to solve the unconscious person mystery, so she suggests that they both go out pretending to go on a date while Riho stays behind to work in his place. Riho gets annoyed by this obvious setup, but Lloyd actually agrees, thinking it's a good idea. Once they go out, Selin immediately clings to Lloyd and harasses him to get compliments. Luckily, Riho saves him just in time before she can do more devious things. Meanwhile, Koba gets even more suspicious of 309 because he's using a substitute for his son's marriage proposal. Back to Lloyd's group, they're trying to plan how to investigate when they run into Shoma on a delivery cart. He explains that he's delivering a huge order of bombs to the hotel, and Riho immediately figures out that it's Selin's idea. She feels unsettled by Shoma staring intensely at Selin before Lloyd introduces Shoma to them. Shoma asks Riho to take care of the bombs since he needs to go somewhere else. Selin dumps them all on Riho to handle and runs away to have her date with Lloyd. While riding a boat, she thanks Lloyd for giving her freedom. She explains her belt curse to him before getting angry that her dad is trying to sell her off right after she got her freedom. However, Lloyd thinks that he's not good enough to help her since he's always relying on his friends. At the same time, Kikayou is spying on both of them from some distance. Once Selin leaves Lloyd to do something, she quickly tries to catch him, but he easily sees through her stealth. Kikayou tells him that she's trying to give him a nice cream massage as a reward for his good work, and Lloyd gets excited. She starts rubbing the cream on his body to extract the demon inside him, but she gets confused when it doesn't work. Then, Kikayou wonders if he has to rub it on Lloyd's family jewels, but just as her hand reaches for his pants, Selin's unforgiving aura startles her. She starts attacking Kikayou with her belt, but Kikayou quickly disappears disappears from her sight before grabbing her and slamming her down with a suplex. Selin easily absorbs the attack with her belt, but she gets distracted by the oiled-up Lloyd. Kikayahu takes this chance to run away, and Selin decides to take her shirtless man to a bath. There, she finds Riho, who is trying to protect Lloyd's innocence, and Alka and Marie, who are trying to relax their bodies. Then, Philo and Mina also pop out to chill and explain that they were hired by the government to investigate the strange incidents. Mina also tells them that there is some illegal tree cultivation going on, and Alka tells them that if they don't stop the coma incidents, the tree demons will grow too much and surround the whole place. Riho points out that Alan went into a coma despite being inside the hotel, and Alka notes that there could be a tree sapling infecting a human inside. Lloyd stands up in worry, saying they need to take action, but realizes that he just flashed his oversized cucumber to all the ladies in the bath. Suddenly, Philo grabs Alka and tosses her into the trees. Selin thinks that it's a good punishment for looking at Lloyd's family jewels, but Philo explains that she threw her at a spy watching them. In the forest, Kikayahu struggles to get up from the hit, and 309's secretary comes up to her. As his body changes, she realizes that he's the one infected by the treant. The secretary complains that 309 always treated him badly, so he started growing demons to take revenge. Kikayahu thinks that she wasted all her time spying on the wrong people, but the demon traps her, declaring that he'll use the tree demon lord's power to take over the world. He gets interrupted when Lloyd comes looking for Alka. Lloyd thinks that he's just wearing a cosplay outfit for fun, which makes the demon mad. He summons all his tree minions and reveals his true form. While Lloyd thinks that he's just putting up a circus, he tells the flabbergasted Kikayahu that he'll deal with the dumbweeds attacking them. While in the mansion, 309 confronts both Koba and Selin's dad for the illegal treant cultivation. Back in the forest, Lloyd finishes deforesting all of the demon lord's minions, and Kikayahu realizes that the giant tree is heading to the hotel for an attack. Inside, 309 gets surprised after learning that Selin's dad was just legally doing business with a noble family and calls his missing secretary to explain. He appears in the demon lord's body, enraged that his master didn't even remember that his name is Minoki. He attacks Koba and his master with his roots, but Selin and the girls arrive to protect them. Mina shoots a fire blast at the tree, but it easily absorbs her attack. Then Philo kicks him out of the hotel, but he easily survives her attack as well. Riho gets an idea to defeat him since magic isn't working, and she runs to find something. Meanwhile, the demon starts wrecking the hotel and breaks a wall with its root. The broken stone falls on Selin, but her father rushes in to save her. Somewhere else, Riho finds Alan sleeping inside the bomb cart. She gives him the flammable bottles, ordering him to just throw them at the giant tree. The demon tree catches Philo and Mina with its roots, but Alan hits it with a bottle before it can hurt them. Both of them launch a volley of fire bottles at the tree, which gives the two sisters a chance to surround it with a water spell. Riho then casts an ice wind that completely freezes the monster. They think they have won, but the tree's core grows red as it launches an attack from underground. Nearby, Selin is struggling to free her trapped father when suddenly, another broken wall falls on them. Luckily, Lloyd arrives just in time to save them both. Marie tells him that the big tree is actually a dangerous monster, so he goes to defeat it. Lloyd effortlessly dodges all its attacks and punches through the ice to get its core, which he crushes inside his fist. At the same time, Shoma is watching them from a distance. He notices Alka trapped in a magic circle on the ground and says that he'll leave her there since she's immortal anyway. She gets surprised that he knows this and asks if he's working with a certain man. Shoma confirms it before leaving, saying that he is free to do whatever he wants since the holy sword is now free. The next day, Alka fixes up the hotel with her magic, and 309 apologizes to Koba for suspecting him. He hands Kikayahu over to him as an apology, and Selin's dad tells her that he regrets trying to force her into a marriage. He smiles and tells Lloyd to take good care of her, and she immediately clings to him with joy. Sometime later, Shoma brings Makona over to an old man in a church. He tells the priest that someone stole her lover away, and she adds that she wants to completely destroy that person. The old man orders Shoma to give her some medicine that boosts her power with Demon Lord Abaddon's energy. She desperately takes the medicine and eats it, which transforms her body into a monster, ready to take revenge on Lloyd. Back in Marie's house, she shamelessly tries to make Lloyd feed her, but Selin and the girls quickly stop her. Lloyd explains that he's going going to visit a dungeon with them to hunt a snake for the king. On top of the house, Alka looks out, solemnly thinking. Later, they all gather at the king's palace to wait for him. Just then, the king shows up and suddenly starts singing to welcome them. Chrome gets angry at his prank, but the king tells him that he was just trying to reduce their nervousness. Colin then explains that the group will find the snake in the dungeon's deepest level, and the army will only protect the areas around the top. Meanwhile, Shoma and the priest Sue are sitting under some shade. Sue tells Shoma that he found someone he was looking for, and will hunt him down before anyone else gets him. They leave the place, and Alka arrives too late to confront them. She goes to find Marie and asks her if she knows any dungeons nearby. When she nods, Alka grabs her and flies to the sky to search for Sue. We then see the dungeon's entrance, where Lloyd's group is gathered. They head inside, and Philo randomly asks Riho if she likes Lloyd. As she grills her with Selin, they get startled by a loud bang. In another part of the dungeon, Marie struggles to get up after falling from the sky, and Alka starts blasting the walls to get straight into the deepest area. While walking through the dungeon, Marie trips on a tree root and finds it growing from a massive tree with Makona inside. She asks her why she's in there, and Makona tells her that she's waiting to take revenge on the person who stole her lover. When she tells her that it's Lloyd, Marie starts thinking that he stole away a big, buff boyfriend. Marie asks her who the lover is, and Makona refuses to speak. She catches her with her roots, claiming that she needs her as bait for Lloyd. However, it's just an excuse for her to get handsy with her crush, and she starts hugging the helpless witch. Lloyd soon arrives at the scene, and Makona gets angry that he interrupted her fun time. She tells him that if he doesn't fight her, she'll commit devious actions with Marie. Makona flies at Lloyd with her bug form, but he easily blows her back. Then, she uses her tree roots to catch him, and Lloyd throws them back at her. Makona gets serious and speeds up, kicking Lloyd into a wall before she starts slamming him through the dungeon. Lloyd grabs her hand and throws her back down. Makona feels shocked by his strength, but he tells her that it's only normal in Klan village. She gets angered by this name and launches another full-force attack, as Riho and the girls make their way to the fight. As Lloyd gets distracted by them, Makona attacks and injures him in the stomach. She mocks him for being weak and relying on his friends, but he firmly tells her that he only gets the courage to try so hard because his friends support him. Lloyd stands back up, ready to defeat her and prove his strength to his friends, and Makona charges at him for a final attack. As they both collide, the dungeon walls begin collapsing from the shock, and the girls take Marie to escape. However, they all fall down a hole through which Makona fights Lloyd. She corners him and uses a giant root to take him down, but he simply grabs the heavy root and starts swinging her around like a baseball bat before throwing her out into the sky. The girls come up to congratulate Lloyd, but just then, the giant dungeon snake wakes up and greets Lloyd. Lloyd doesn't recognize the creature, but the snake explains that they first met when he was just a baby. The snake introduces himself as Vitra, saying it's his job to protect Klan and maintain Alka's powers. Lloyd asks why he's in the dungeon. He starts crying that Alka tried to cut his skin off to make some clothes, then calms down to protect his dignity. Marie then wonders how Makona got the demon. Just then, Sue walks into the room, saying he gave her the powers. He asks Lloyd what he thinks about him, so Lloyd replies that he looks like a bad man. Sue thinks that Lloyd is the hero he's looking for, and asks if he wants the job. He nods, but then Alka also appears to take Sue down. Sue tells her that she needs to greet someone else, and she feels surprised to see Vitra there. The giant snake gets angry that Alka isn't apologizing for what she did, but suddenly, Sue jumps on his back, saying that he was his target all along. He pulls out Vitra's core and shatters it, defeating the giant snake. Alka gets mad and charges at Sue, who feels confident that she can't touch him without her powers. However, Alka ragdolls him into the dungeon wall, and they find out that Vitra escaped into Selin's snakeskin belt. Alka finally remembers cutting off his skin to make an apron, but says that she sold the skin off as a cursed item after damaging it. Sue recovers from his shock and escapes, saying that he'll unseal Klan and expose the last dungeon. Somewhere else, Alan makes his way down the trembling dungeon, trying to find Lloyd's party. He gets scared of the terrifying auras inside and stops in his tracks, and the soldiers following him think that he's causing the entire place to shake with his power. Meanwhile, down below, Alka quickly takes out her magic ball to teleport everyone outside. The next day, the king thanks Alan for his bravery in defeating the dangerous red snake. Alan refuses refuses to take credit for anything, and everyone thinks that he's just being humble, so the king awards him with the title of Dragon Slayer. Meanwhile, Lloyd is holding the book he got from Shoma in his childhood, thinking that the hero of the book has the same name as Sue. He goes downstairs to have dinner, where Alka announces that she's taking everyone to Kunlun village. The next day, the king prepares to hold an exhibition match between Aami and the Jew Empire. He decides to send their best fighter in, deciding that it's going to be the fake tough guy, Ellen. Later, the group walks to Kunlun because Alka ran out of magic. Riho asks Chrome and Colin why they're coming with them instead of handling the academy, and she learns that they left Alan behind with Mina to take care of it. Soon, they enter a cave, where they meet a dwarf called Yug. She gets mad at Vitra for wandering outside and getting destroyed, but he blames Alka for getting him trapped. Alka says that it's all Yug's fault for asking her to make a scarf as a gift for Lloyd, so she tries to cover up her fault and takes everyone inside the portal. They exit out into the peaceful Kunlun village and find it more peaceful than expected. Marie warns them to keep their guard up, and soon, everyone starts trembling in fear from all the dangerous auras around them. They watch as the villagers around perform routine tasks like they're Spider-Man, jumping entire floors and going to work by getting shot away from a cannon. Then, they watch as a giant piranha monster approaches, casually caught in a fish basket by Lloyd's grandpa. Philo greets the old man and asks to become his student to learn his fighting style. Lloyd tells him that his style is actually just a yoga technique for health and fitness, which crushes all her dreams. Afterward, Alka takes them to her house, and Colin leaves with Chrome to meet Meltfin. She finds him working in the fields with just a loincloth on, and gets distracted by his exposed body. Meltfin thinks that she's getting restless because she needs to use the toilet, so he tells her that she can do it anywhere in the field to give it fertilizer. After he receives a deserved beating from Colin, he gets serious and tells them that he doesn't have the face to return to Aami after betraying their king. He also says that he likes living in the peaceful village and tending to his crops, so Colin quietly accepts his decision. Back in the house, Selin saw Lloyd surrounded by a group of people and assumed they were his family, so she handed out marriage forms for her and Lloyd, but her efforts were suddenly interrupted by a massive dragon. Riho rushed outside to face the beast, but she was powerless and fled for her life. Meanwhile, some children had turned the forms into paper planes and, incredibly, the planes scared the dragon off and even sliced off one of its horns. Afterward, they all sit down and enjoy a special welcome feast, treated to all sorts of magic monster meat. After eating, Riho rushes to help the elders with the dishes. Once the work is done, they all say goodbye to the villagers, but they ask Lloyd if he has a girlfriend yet. He gets shy and starts making excuses, but the villagers recommend marrying Riho or Philo since they're both very talented. Selin gets jealous of them and asks Vitra to help her score points. He suggests using her belt to transform, and Yug suggests that he become a giant toad, wounding the Vitra's pride. Later at night, Yug sits down with Alka for a chat, discussing Sue's evil plans. Yug asks if she's ready for the next step of their plan, but Alka refuses, saying she needs time. Yug points out that humanity is on the brink of learning magic themselves, but Alka wants to wait until she's sure before taking action. Then, Yug tells her that Vitra was about to recover his lost memory and might go on a rampage if he remembers. Back in the house, the girls are bickering because the villagers gifted Riho some premium clothes. She gets excited and decides to sell them off for the precious materials. Riho takes the clothes off in front of them. Just then, Lloyd arrives to give them some drinks, but Philo kicks him into a mountain before he can see too much. Meanwhile, Meltfin apologizes to Marie for all his crimes. She forgives him before asking who tricked him into using the king. He reveals that a strange man asked him what he looked like before handing him a demon lord egg that put him under mind control. Marie and Colin feel shocked, knowing there is only one person who introduces themselves with that weird sentence. The next morning, they all head out to get a new body for Vitra. The group looks on in wonder as they reach the mythical destination called the Last Dungeon. Yug explains that this special dungeon doesn't have any monsters or loot inside, but is actually a prison used to seal demon lords. Lloyd also learns that it's the task of the Kunlun villagers to defeat any demon lords that escape, and Yug also reveals that Vitra is the guardian of Kunlun and Alka. She says that if Alka takes any damage, she can just transfer it to the snake to protect herself. Marie interrupts her, saying that they must have brought them to the dungeon because Alka acted like an idiot and damaged Vitra's power trying to skin him for an apron, so the seal on the dungeon must have gotten weak. Alka feels guilty and tries to pin it on Yug, who points out that if they get the dungeon's key in her weakened state, they can easily release all the demon lords inside. Riho wonders what the key is, and learns that it's actually the stupid holy sword they left at the academy. Yug grins when she learns that they have it, before changing the subject and saying that she'll transfer Vitra to a new body since her magic is getting unstable. She brings out a kitchen set, covers the belt, and wraps it around some meat. Riho points out that she's just slow cooking the snake, but Yug says that she's actually serious. And soon, smoke comes out from the food and seals him into a package. Alka notes that she can actually take damage now, meaning Yug's plan worked. All of the girls take this chance to roast the powerless Alka for all her pranks, but Marie still feels too scared of her to say anything. Afterward, everyone begins heading back home to Aami, but Yug pulls Alka aside for a chat and throws her down a deep pit. Alka thinks it's just a prank, but Yug tells her that she'll release all the demon lords because her powers are sealed. Alka wonders why Yug is doing this, and she tells her that she's going to rebuild the world with her own hero. Alka realizes that she's talking about Sue and Shoma before Yug covers the hole with a rock. Some distance away, Marie turns around to greet her, but Yug rushes them all through the portal. Riho wonders why Lloyd isn't coming with them and grows silent before leaving. Lloyd runs up to Yug after a little while, who tells him that they all left. Yug tells Lloyd to go look for Alka since she's sick, before going through the portal herself. Once the group is back in their world, Colin feels sad thinking about Melfin, but gets surprised when he comes out with her. Melfin tells her that he just wanted to deliver some gifts and will return once he's done. However, Yug tells him that she disabled the portal to be able to spend at least one day without Alka bugging her. Later, Riho is walking down the market after selling her premium clothes when Yug asks her if she wants to sell her mithril arm. She thinks about it but refuses. A bit later, Riho meets Mina walking through the street. Mina takes her to meet Rawl, who is writing a book in the hospital on how to be a master manipulator. Riho asks her if she remembers who told her to pull the holy sword out. Rawl tells her that it was actually Sue, who had someone with him. Riho learns that the person with Sue was making some chewing noises like Yug does with her candy, and she hopes that the sneaky dwarf isn't planning something malicious. A few days later, it's time for the exhibition match, and the group gathers in a stadium to get ready for their guests. The king arrives with the guest king, and Riho recognizes him as Sue, along with Shoma. She goes to meet the Aami king and asks him to postpone the match, thinking that they might be in danger. After learning that Riho is Marie's friend, the king happily agrees and takes her inside. Back at Kunlun village, Alka is feeling hopeless, but Lloyd somehow finds her. She wonders how he was able to track the hole, so Lloyd reveals that he used to get trapped in the same hole in his childhood as well. He also points out that it was covered with a very suspicious looking rock, which helped him easily spot it. Lloyd then says he wants to help her and everyone else, and she feels hopeful that they can protect the world with his support. Meanwhile, Sue asks Yug how things are going and prepares to unleash his master plan on the exhibition day. Back to Lloyd, he asks her how they can return to Aami without a portal, but she tells him that she has a plan. She takes him to the village and loads him up into a cannon. All of the villagers use their magic to shoot Lloyd towards Aami, and he uses a wind spell to speed up towards his destination. Back at Aami, the exhibition match begins, and Alan faces off against the demon Makona. She easily ragdolls him in front of the shocked audience, and Sue tells the king that he wants them to build an alliance. He thinks that with his power to turn humans into monstrous weapons and the Aami kingdom's vast resources, they can easily take over the world. Mina and Chrome try to knock some sense into their king, but Shoma stops them in their tracks. The king recalls when he was controlled by Abaddon and caused a national crisis, saying he won't accept their offer and cause even more problems for everyone. Sue notes his response and makes a signal to Yug, who steps up for her duty. However, the girls all appear to stop her, saying that they won't let her take the holy sword and unseal the last dungeon. She mocks them, saying that ordinary people can't do anything to her, but Selin steps up, saying saying that they're not the same weak girls that Lloyd used to carry around. Marie and the others also get determined to fight her, but Yug throws out a bunch of capsules that release huge locusts on the audience. Sue threatens the king to accept his offer if he wants to protect his people, and Yug thinks she has backed them into a corner. However, Marie gives her a smug grin as the entire audience erupts with weapons to fight back against the monsters. Meanwhile, Meltfin appears behind Shoma and tells him to leave. He pulls out his farming tools and loincloth and gets ready to teach him a lesson. Shoma feels impressed that he is casually wielding legendary weapons as farming tools, but dodges Meltfin's dangerous attacks. Meltfin tells him that agriculture and the country life aren't boring like he thinks, but Shoma corrects his misunderstanding and reveals that he's bored with the entire world, so he wrote an awesome book about the outside world to inspire Lloyd. He says that the world needs a crisis so Lloyd can have fun and grow, and suddenly appears in front of Meltfin before crushing him with a powerful attack. Nearby, the girls struggle to fight all the bugs, and Makona suddenly attacks them. She heads straight for Marie, but in front of their shocked eyes, she just keeps touching her for some reason. Philo kicks the creep into a wall, while Sue orders the king to give him the holy sword. Suddenly, Alan runs up behind him and chops his arm off, but Sue easily regrows it. He explains that he's actually a being made of countless magical runes. Sue tells them that he was created by Alka to save the world from some demons, but after he defeated them, he never disappeared. He started hating his pointless life after his mission was completed, so he decided to disappear by becoming a villain, planning for Lloyd to rise as the new hero who would one day defeat him. Just then, an explosion booms in the arena and catches them all off guard. Once the dust settles down, they see Lloyd in the middle of the stadium. Lloyd doesn't notice the tense atmosphere and instead thinks that they're just having an exhibition match. He then starts scolding Yug since he thinks she failed to revive Vitra and runs away in shame, even closing the portal for Alka. Yug feels absolutely stunned that he's dumb enough not to suspect her, but nobody can convince the noble Lloyd that she's an evil person. Then, Lloyd remembers that he needs to get the egg that she's using to seal Vitra, so he chucks a stone and knocks her down from her flying bug. Yug pulls the pin on her lollipop and throws it out to summon a huge rock golem in the arena. The golem absorbs Makona into its body and punches at Lloyd. Lloyd stops its attack and flips it into the arena before breaking off its arm. However, the golem easily regenerates the arm. While Selin quietly stalks Yug, Lloyd keeps beating the golem up, but it heals all of his damage and gets back up before using a powerful energy beam that pierces through the whole stadium. Lloyd then jumps up and tries to attack the golem's core, but he gets distracted by Makona. The golem takes this opportunity to send him crashing into a wall. The girls realize that the golem is using Makona as its healing core, but wonder how to take her out without hurting her. Suddenly, a bug creeps up on them. While the golem pounds Lloyd into the ground, he thinks that he's truly too weak to fight a real monster, but Meltfin protects him from getting hurt even more. He asks Lloyd if he's just going to give up after coming so far, and distracts the golem. Meanwhile, the girls run to a higher height and try talking to Makona. At the sound of Marie's voice, she finally stirs from her sleep. Meltfin runs up to the golem and chops half its head off, and Lloyd gets the courage to stand back up again. Riho offers to give Makona a pair of Marie's underwear, and she immediately flies straight out of the golem and snatches them away like a homeless guy with drugs. At the same time, Selin steals the Vitra egg from Yug and threatens to overload it by yapping about every single detail of Lloyd's existence, so Vitra unseals himself before she can subject him to such torture. Down in the arena, Lloyd easily destroys the golem since it has lost its regenerative powers. Shoma records his heroic moments, and Sue feels happy that Lloyd is strong enough to replace him as a hero. Yug realizes that her plans are finished, and Alka approaches her to finish her off. However, Shoma and Sue protect Yuji, saying that they'll be back for more later, and leave after encouraging Lloyd to keep getting stronger. This was the end. Subscribe to not miss more recaps, and watch the next video on screen.